Putin mentioned in his speech he wants to eliminate root causes, which Evans says is about Russia's uncertainty and vulnerability, and Putin sees Ukraine's independence from Russia as a broken bond. Evans believes Putin wants to end the war so Russia doesn't lose any more resources or people. He adds what will come in the following days will be telling because we should know more details on the progress Trump and Putin made and how Volodymyr Zelensky will respond.
That's got to be a heartbreaking disappointment that instead of peace coming to your country for at least a short period of time, maybe more warfare. And they've suffered mightily.